the copy of last year, last year's exam. It's unformatted, so that's why it sort of like looks a little bit different to what you would see on the exam. Alright, so the exams are going to be the same as this. Two parts, part A, part B. Part A is short theory and calculations. So there's five questions presented to you, but you only have to answer four. Now you're going to ask me, well, what happens if I answer five? And what happens is I can count up to four, so I don't count the fifth one. So you're wasting your time. So doing the five, so just do the four. So they're worth 10 marks each. And then there's multiple choice. There's 10 questions, and they're worth a mark each. So the total of the exam is 50%. All right, so question one. What are the three main ways to achieve competitive advantage through operations strategy? So what were the three? One starts with the C. What's the next letter? Cost. Very good. So cost leadership, or like lower cost basically. What about the one that starts with D?
Distribution?
Nope. Man.
Differentiation.
Very good. So differentiation. And R. Talk like a car. Which one starts with R? Second letter is E. Response. So what does response mean? How can that be a competitive advantage or a competitive strategy? What are we responding to?
Demand.
No.
Fluctuations in demand?
No. No, it's sort of more in the realms of marketing. So what are we responding to? What's marketing all about? When operations management, I mean that's the good bit because we make stuff. So what are the sales and marketing people? What do they look at?
Trends.
They look at trends, yeah. Trends. So what's the trend? Is a customer
need, customer
that's
demand.
it, a consumer want or a consumer need. So the idea of response is that we can get a product into the market as soon as we recognise what the customer need is. So the examples of that are perhaps Hewlett Packard and their printers. Even Toyota or possibly even Mazda do it. When they come up with a new car. I remember many years ago now when they came out with the RAV. That was the first of the special use vehicle or sports utility vehicle. So the idea is that there's sort of like a need for a car, so they sort of like make it. So Hewlett Packard, there's a new need for a type of printer, so they make it. So that's basically response. B, what makes short-term scheduling of strategic importance? If you go to a fast food place, what is it that you want? It starts with F.
Fast food.
Fast food, that's right. So, what's short-term scheduling got to do with fast food? It puts some fast into it. So the idea of scheduling, sort of like hour by hour, minute by minute, sort of satisfy the customer needs straight away. So That's the strategic importance of short-term scheduling. Now, you all knew that. I know you did. So far, well, I reckon you've probably got about 4 out of 6 so far. Question, well, part C, define supply chain management. So the idea of supply chain is that you've got, it's sort of all the steps which a product goes through from Mother Earth to Mother Earth. So it's all the intermediaries. So, you know, it's all the different suppliers, how they're connected is the idea of a supply chain. Draw a supply chain network diagram for any product. So your quilt would be a good one, wouldn't it? Because I'm sure you've all drawn one. So what would the quilt supply chain look like? You'd have your quilt in the middle. Now what does it mean if we're upstream in the supply chain? Up from where?
Is it like the raw resources?
It is, very good. So the downstream, the final part of the trip or the river is the customer. So if you think of C for customer, C for sea, and then it's the rivers which sort of run into the sea. So we've got your quilt. Now on the other side of your quilt, so upstream, we've got all the supplies for your quilt, right? So you know where they get the machine from, where they get their their consumables from, their plastic from, etc. Their milk powder, all those types of things. So that's on one side of your quilt. And on the other side of your quilt, it's sort of, you know, how does your quilt get it to its customers? It supplies the supermarkets, Woolworths and Coles, IGA, and then they also do some of their own deliveries. The quilt ladies, I think they would call. So that would be an example of a supply chain. Now, label product flow. So how does product flow in a supply chain? How does water flow in a river?
Downstream.
Downstream, that's right. So the product flow is going to come, you know, sort of down towards the consumer. So that's just in one direction. What about information flow?
That goes
That's upstream. On both sides.
Both. That's right. It's backwards and forwards. So it goes upstream from the customer. So customer demand, that goes all the way to the supply chain, and then there's information from the suppliers, like invoices, you know, purchase orders, etc., how much stuff's in stock. So you've got information going backwards and forwards in a supply chain. Cash flow. Which way does cash move?
Upwards.
That's it. So it's except if you're a supermarkets, because well, that's probably a bit confusing. So there's the thing in the news that they actually sort of expect their suppliers to pay them to put their product in certain locations. But in the main, cash flows one way, up the supply chain. So it's the ultimate consumer who pays for the whole supply chain. And then upstream side of the supply chain and downstream side. So if we've got your quilt, so upstream is all the supplies, and downstream is going to be the supermarkets, etc., etc. So are we all confident with that?
Yes.
Alright, so I'm looking for easy exams tomorrow, guys. Question 2. Question 2, identify and discuss the 4 major categories of cost associated with quality. So page 246.
Is it like just external failure, internal failure, and all that?
That's it, yep. So, the first one is prevention cost. The second one is appraisal cost. So the cost of prevention, yeah. So prevention costs associated with reducing the potential for defective parts or services. It includes things like training and quality improvement programs.
Do we need explaining it after course?
Yeah, discuss it.
Yes, discuss. Identify and discuss. So you can use an example. Appraisal cost, so there's two, a cost related to evaluating the product, and then there's the internal failure cost and the external failure cost. So the internal failure cost is what?
When a product gets affected but it doesn't go out of the fabric.
That's it, yes. So I was just thinking, the example for your assignment would be, you haven't given it to your lecturer yet, but you've noticed that you've made a mistake. So that would be internal, and then external, that you've sort of sent a done assignment to your lecturer, or a done product to your customer. So the external failure is the cost that occur after delivery of the effective parts or services. So it could be rework, return goods, liabilities, loss of goodwill, and cost to society.
Such as VW.
VW, good example. Very expensive. Don't tell fibs. Don't make up software to trick the authorisation of places.
What was the fourth one again? So it's internal, external, prevention, and
Appraisal.
Appraisal.
What?
Prevention,
Yes.
appraisal.
Appraisal.
Yep. Internal and external cost.
And appraisal cost, that is?
The cost of inspecting. So 2B, identify the four basic process strategies and describe them in a complete sentence. I didn't like this. Sorry? Well, the other one is the mass customisation, and the other one's the production line. So process focus, repetitive focus, product focus, mass customisation. So repetitive focus was the one. So product, process, repetitive, and then mass customisation. Repetitive, yeah. So this is the production line thing.
what's the difference between product and repetitive?
Once done sort of in a production line type thing, where you've got sort of systems of the plant set up to assemble, say cars or something like that.
That's product focus, cars, isn't it?
No, it's the repetitive focus because it's sort of assembling sub-assemblies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or if they make white goods the same way, it's sort of like a whole lot of sub-assemblies which are put together on like a production line. So that's the idea of repetitive.
But yeah, cool. That'll be product focus, no?
Yes. Because there's not really this. It is a product focus, but I suppose you could probably argue that it is a repetitive process.
Yeah.
Because, well, the sub-assembly is the milk that they've already mixed up. But,
Yeah.
what I would look for would be your cool to be described as a product focus.
All right.
Now, don't worry too much about the complete sentence. I'm just quite happy with dot points. So don't stress about grammar. When the last thing you want is, oh, sort of, how do I describe this in a coherent, complete sentence? So, 2C. State two examples of cultural and ethical issues that face operations managers in a global environment. So what's an example of a cultural issue?
Someone walking on water.
Could be. That's a good point. Yep. What would be another example? Well, how does that affect operations management?
Well, when pork's not really popular in those countries, so
And it would be unfair to have people who handling it if it's sort of against their religion. Now, if somebody tried to, so I'm just sort of thinking from an operational management point of view, I suppose it's, well, this is cultural. If our customers from America or Europe phoned up a factory in Melbourne on the first Tuesday in November, what would they find?
Nobody come to this one.
It's not open.
Not open, that's right. Holiday.
It's Melbourne Cup.
Melbourne Cup, that's right, yeah. So, I mean, that's cultural, that's sort of cultural here for Australia. But, yeah, like Ramadan in other countries, that's sort of, you know, the equivalent of the Christian Christmas, I suppose. You know, we have Easter. Is anybody Greek? Russian Orthodox? Because the Christians have Easter, and then the Greek Orthodox actually have celebrated Easter a week later.
Yeah.
What was the reason for that? Many years ago, there was sort of like a breakup of Christianity into two sort of, you know, two main camps. There were lots of split ups, but they were sort of, you know, sort of just how do you recognise when Easter was? So the West, sort of the majority of Christians decided it was the first Friday closest to the full moon after the autumn equinox. So that's how it would have been in Europe. So that's why we have to March, and that's why it keeps moving. So what about some ethical issues that affects operations management?
The political, something like when you open a shop that maybe accepted in Australia but not accepted in some Asian country.
Like, what's an example?
For example, like about sexual things. You selling some toy for sexual something, so it's legal to sell in Australia or here, but it's really illegal in the Asian country.
Right. Yep. So some of the other ethical things are things like bribery and corruption, child labour.
Child labour.
Children, employing children, yeah. And another thing too is that, I don't know if it's ethical or cultural, but many years ago I remember somebody gave me a small statue carved in ivory. And I was a bit put off by it because, you know, sort of the endangered species, sort of mostly ivory around us from people who go and illegally knock elephants on their heads, etc., etc. So there's sort of those sensitivities. So question 3. Describe ABC inventory analysis in one sentence, and what are some policies that may be based on the results of an ABC analysis? So, how would you describe ABC analysis? What do you think, Aidan?
It's kind of
What's a couple of numbers which might describe it?
numbers,
The ratio.
radio,
Ratio.
radio.
Ratio.
Ratio.
Can it 20, 30, 50?
80-20, very good. Yes, so ABC analysis is Pareto rule, about 80-20. So the idea is 80% of our sales will come from 20% of our products or thereabouts. So that's basically the principle that we use in ABC analysis. So we identify that group of products, which represents 80% of our sales, say, and then the B would be sort of another group of products, and then the C would be another group of products, and then you keep on going. So what sort of, what are some of the policies that we might base on this ABC analysis?
Which product to be more focused?
That's it, yes. So if we've got ABC, 80-20, so we've recognised 80%, the 20 products, the 20% of our products where 80% of our income comes from. We would treat those differently to B, which sort of represents less percentage of our sales, and then C, a less percentage. So perhaps we could have a 98% customer service level with our A, perhaps it might be 70% for a B, and perhaps it might be 60% for our C, just as an example.
So what would be the policy again? The customer service?
Customer service level. So
okay.
Because this group, 20% of your items are
Yeah, treat those ones better.
Yeah,
Basically.
so you concentrate on those to make sure you've always got them in stock.
Okay.
All right, now, economic order quantity. I prepared this one earlier. Oh, there we go. So, economic order quantity, that's the formula. Now, the formulas are at the end of the exam. I'll show you, although they're not formatted. There they are there. Exponential smoothing, mean absolute deviation, economic order quantity, and total ordering cost. Like I said, they're sort of all jiggled around because it's not formatted, but the formulas will be there. So economic order quantity is equal to the square root of 2 multiplied by demand, multiplied by your cost of ordering, divided by your cost of holding. So our demand is how much? 145 units. Our cost of ordering is $25. Our cost of holding is $20. So then the calculation is square root of 2 multiplied by demand, 145, multiplied by your cost of ordering, which is 25, divided by your cost of holding, which is 20. And then, as we all know, multiply that together, you get 362.5, and then square root of that, as we all know, it's 19. Now, with your calculators, just make sure you, take your calculator, but just take a cheap one. You won't be able to use the calculator on your mobile phone because the invigilators will think, it's sort of phone a friend. So it's best to go for the cheap ones because they get a bit suspicious of the fancy ones, just in case they have the capacity of memory. So just do El Cheapo, I don't know, it's about $3 or something. And Woolies. Sorry?
No.
So the first part is what is the economic order quantity? So basically 19. So we worked out the calculation. We've got 19 is the economic order quantity. What's the optimum number of orders per year? So how many are we going to sell? 145. What are the size of the orders? We're going to order them in lots of 19. So basically, it's demand, 145, divided by 19, which gives us 7.63. So we're going to place 7.63 orders per year. So that's the optimum number of orders. What is the optimal number of days between orders? How many days are there in a year, Devin? 365. And
Doesn't bother about that number.
yeah, how many orders are we going to place? 7.63. So if we divide 365 by 7.63, we get 47.83 days. So that's the number of days between the orders. And what's the annual inventory cost? So So this is the formula. So the quantity, so this is our economic order quantity. So we've got 19 divided by 2, multiplied by the holding cost, which was 20, plus the demand, which was 145, divided by the quantity, which was 19, multiplied by the cost of ordering. All right, so now the thing you've got to remember is, so this is your cost of holding, and the other part is your cost of ordering. So our economic order quantity is 19. We want to work out our average inventory. So when our order comes in, there's going to be 19, and at the end of the period, there's going to be none. So halfway is going to be the median inventory or the average inventory. So that's why we divide the economic order quantity by 2, and then we multiply it. So this will tell us how much we've got in stock, and then this 20 will tell us how much it costs to hold that number in stock. 19 divided by 2, that equals 9.5 by 20, equals 190. And 145 divided by 19, 7.64, right there, by 25. All right, the first thing that we notice is that this number, so this is our cost of holding, is very close to our cost of ordering. Now, we know that should be true because this formula is actually derived from the idea of where Q over 2 equals D over Q. So that's actually where this formula has come from. So the idea is that the cost of holding it is basically the cost of ordering it. So when you do your calculation, just make sure that those two numbers are very close. Now, they're unlikely to be exactly the same. There's a difference of 0.78. But if you've got sort of 100 here, you've got 290 on the other side, you know that you've made an error somewhere. Is everybody okay with that?
That's holding costs with inventory costs, right?
Total cost, yes. So it's a holding cost plus the ordering cost. So question 4. What's the difference between a push and a pull system? What's an example of a pull system?
Demand driven?
No.
Here. Well, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, I suppose customer demand driven.
Yeah.
So what's an example of it?
Toyota,
What about Toyota?
they produce according to the customer demand,
What system do they use?
just in time.
Just in time, that's right. So that's an example of just in time
Yeah.
or lean. So Toyota does it, Dell doesn't. Because they don't, they won't make a computer until they have an order for it. So what's the push system?
You just produce and expect to sell as much
That's
as you
it.
can.
You just push it out into the market, and if the market isn't buying, you can do things. You can sort of advertise, you can sort of reduce the price, you can have buy one get one free, all those types of things. And what's the example of the push system? What are those institutions which are very close to my heart?
Coles?
No, Woolworths, but yeah, you're on the right track. Yeah. So supermarkets. So supermarkets is a good example of push system. So push systems are based on forecast, and they're basically make to stock, whereas your pull systems are basically make to order. Now 4B, describe the three forecasting horizons and their use. The first one is long range, so what are the other two? Short range is one, yeah, what's the other one? Medium range, yeah, that's it, that's pretty hard, that one. So what are their uses? So what's the use of a long range forecast? If you're a business making stuff, what will be your long range forecast? What would you be planning to do in 5 years' time?
Small business episode.
Yeah, sell it to Google for billions. So what sort of stuff did you have to sort of think in terms of long term?
Maybe where to open a new franchise or something.
As where to open a new factory, perhaps a new country. Depending on the length of time, it might be how long it takes to make pieces of equipment. Well, that is probably medium range. So what's an example of short term? Short range.
Labor, working hours.
That's it, labour, sort of day to day. Intermediate, or medium range. Might be whether you need to put new shifts on, whether you have to get extra capacity, those types of things. So sort of like about 1 to 3 months is short term. 3 to a couple of years is medium, and then long range forecast is 3 or 5 years. Now, part C, based on the actual sales data forecast for July 2004, we're using the following. 3 month moving averages, how would we do that?
You add the first actual sales.
Yep.
Divided by 3.
Yep.
Do the average of the 3 months.
Yep. And then you do the same for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. What about weighted moving average? And we've got here a 3 month weighted moving average using weights of 1, 3 and 6. Use 6 for the most recent month. So the most. So if we were doing these first 3, it would be 6 for the first one, 3 for the second one, 1 for that one. And what would we divide by? What would be the denominator?
No, but number 2 and number 3.
Yes, so we've got, we multiply that by 6, we multiply that by 3, multiply that by 1. But what do we divide it by?
Yeah.
Very good. 10. So you've got to divide it by the value of the factor. So 6 plus 3 plus 1 is 10. So that's how you get the average. You have to divide by 10. And exponential smoothing. So that's the formula. So to work out the forecast for T, it's forecast for T minus 1. So the previous forecast plus alpha multiplied by AT minus 1, so the actual for the previous period minus the forecast for the previous period. So we've got a forecast for January of 360. So what's the first period that we can forecast? What's the first month that we can forecast?
February.
Very good. Why February?
Because for January we don't have any previous data.
That's it. Very good. So your forecast won't be able to start until January. Everybody okay with that? Question 5. Explain how just-in-time works in services. After all, how does small lot size and reduced setup cost make sense in services? Provide examples to support your work. So what do we know about the difference between services and goods with respect to things like inventory? Do you have inventory when you make goods? Yes, you do. Do you have inventory when you make services? Not necessarily. If you think of Jim's mowing can't mow in advance. They need to have somebody's lawn to mow. So if you go to a hairdresser or something like that, they can't cut your hair in advance. You have to be there for them to do it. So that's basically one of the biggest differences between services and goods is inventory and how it's treated. Now, the idea of small lot size. Normally, because the customer is actually part of the service, it can't get really small than one customer. So it's already in small lot sizes.
So what do we have answer to that question?
Well, you'd say that services are already a small lot size because they're usually, the customer is usually part of the service. Yeah, that's an active component of it. And reduce setup cost. Usually it's pretty much reduced anyway. You know, if you go to a hairdresser or if you go to a doctor or somewhere like that, there's not really much of a setup cost or setup time, and it's probably dependent on the individual anyway. (5) Describe the theory of constraints. Identify the theory of constraint steps in sequential order. What are they? Page 304. What's the first thing that you need to do? Step 1, identify the constraint. Step 2, develop a plan. Step 3, focus resources on accomplishing. Step 2. Step 4, reduce the effect of the constraint. And step 5, when one set of constraints is overcome, go back to step 1 and identify the new constraints.
So it's find it or identify it, then determining how to
Plan,
exploit.
yeah.
Like
Exploit, yeah. So work out a plan on it.
And what was the third one?
The third one
So,
was to focus resources on accomplishing 2. And step 4, reduce the effect of the constraint. And step 5, go back and start again.
okay.
Now, if you have a look at the PowerPoint slides, I think there's a better method than the textbook in there.
Do you have any chapter that we should focus on?
Well, this is chapter 7.
Chapter 7. No, for the whole exam.
Well, have a look at the unit guide. and it sort of says which chapters to read, so they're basically the chapters. All right, so 5C, list the typical cost components associated with maintaining inventory. What are they?
Fixed costs?
No, what are the costs associated with maintaining inventory?
Ordering and holding.
Yep, and then there's sort of things like counting it, obsolescence, stuff gets damaged. So all those types of things are examples of what the costs are.
But if we just put holding and ordering, will you get full marks for that?
There's only 2 marks.
Those are the more typical.
I'm sure you'll be able to come up with them. Now, before I forget,